Hey everyone, it's Karina, educator with Kenra Professional, and today I'm very excited to walk you through this process on how I created this beautiful honey blonde. It's very multi-dimensional. It's gonna be great for helping with your clients that have a little bit of curl pattern or texture in their hair. And my client prior to this, she did have some banding, so it's also gonna help diffuse and blend out those bands. So stick around so you can see the process. To start off my application today, I'm gonna be working with a 4-quadrant sectioning. So we're gonna go ahead and get that started today. The goal with this application, you guys, is really to blend out her roots here. So I'm gonna be bringing some of this color into the interior of her hair, as well as touching up her highlights. So bringing some of the blonde up closer to the root area. So she has an all over just blended out look, but also again, creating some depth in the interior to get some really beautiful contrast to where we end up with more of that honey end result like that we see here on her ends. Okay, so for her 4-quadrant sectioning, I'm going based off of just where the hair is naturally parted here. Something that I like to do with this particular hair texture, I am gonna be applying my foils in a diagonal forward. So I do like to do my sectioning, my quadrant sectioning that way as well. So instead of your traditional from here to here, I'm gonna go from here to the ear, so it's a bit more on an angle. It's gonna help guide us through the application. So I'm just gonna use my fingers to help get this sectioned off. So we have a simple 4-quadrant sectioning. We used our fingers for this. We're doing a diagonal forward to create the quadrants instead of our traditional, you know, from the apex to the back of the ear, going in more of an angle to help really create some control. And also we're gonna be mimicking these partings as we work through the application. I do like to start in the back because it's a little bit darker here. As well as it really just helps me have more control as I work through her hair. So what I'm gonna do, what I like to do, this client in particular, she does have more of a deep wave to her hair that can enhance into more curl. She does also wear her hair straight sometimes. So I'm keeping all of this in mind before I place my product in. So what I like to do is go in with my curly hair wet brush and really comb out her hair. I purposely had her come in, you know, styled how she normally wears it so I could see how much her curl is gonna retract. But I'm also gonna go in and now comb out her hair because I do want it to expand so I can get an idea on how it's gonna look if it's a little bit straighter, so I can blend her highlights in accordingly. So now that I have this section combed out, I'm gonna go in with a diagonal forward subsection that's about 1 inch in width. The reason why I'm choosing a diagonal forward is because it's gonna fall towards the face really pretty. It's still on a diagonal, so we're still gonna get a nice pretty blend. However, it's gonna fall when her hair is curly forward towards the face, which is gonna give us a bit more boldness when it's curly. So diagonal because it'll blend nice on straight hair, and then forward because it's gonna give us a bit more bold color when it's curly. So I'm gonna go in and do a bit of a moderate weave pattern here because we're in the nape area, and I'm gonna transition into a little bit more of a heavier weave pattern as I work up higher. And I'm gonna start off with a moderate weave pattern. I'm gonna do a little bit of a back comb. And then I'm going in with our cream lightener. I really love this lightener for an application like this because it does have an oil blend to it that's gonna help with keeping the integrity of the hair and conditioning, has some conditioning agents in it. So really, really good for her hair type to help maintain her curl pattern as we're lightening it. So I use the cream lightener with 20 vol. And I mix it at a 1:2 ratio. I'm gonna go ahead and apply in the regrowth area and leave those ends out so that we're not overlapping our product. Her ends really have the tone that I'm going for already, so it's gonna really help bring it all together in the end. Now that I'm off the hairline, I'm working more into the interior part of the hair. I'm gonna take my inch subsection, and now I'm gonna start to create more of a zigzag subsection. And this is gonna help to create a bit more blends before we go in and weave the hair further. She doesn't have a springy curl, so diffusion isn't gonna be too much of an issue here. Of course, if she had a tighter curl, we'd wanna alter the amount of hair we take in between each subsection to really make sure we see it as the hair shrinks, but her hair has a nice deep wave to it, so. And she wears it straight. I think that's the other goal, is to keep it blended enough if she wears her hair straight, but still also give her some color for when it's curly. So again, just really applying my cream lightener, getting a nice saturation, and then a little bit more of that softer blend into the root area. I'm gonna go in and create a bit of a zigzag where I will be parting. Really gonna skim the points of those zigzags. Create a soft back comb. And then now I'm about my third foil in. I'm really reaching that interior part of the hair. I'm gonna take a bit of a heavier weave pattern, so picking up anywhere from 2 to 3 pieces. And then when we have a little bit less product on our brush, we can feather out our product a lot easier, get a nice softer blend. So if your client was starting off with a completely blank canvas and you really wanted to have some beautiful blonde going through the ends, you would want to flip your foils up as you work through each subsection and do some type of back comb to tip out the in-between pieces. She technically already has that blonde on her end, so I don't need to do any tipping throughout her hair. So we're gonna work through this more in like a retouch style. So this is a great application for somebody that does have pre-existing blonde and highlights and you're going in for more of a retouch. This is exactly how you would do it. Blank canvas, you'd go in between and do tip outs as well. So you can see your highs and lows to really help create some blends. By skimming this section in half, you're picking up those points there. So you're really creating a nice blend, but also still being able to have a bit more boldness. So that's our first section. We're gonna move over to our second back quadrant here. So again, in the hairline, we're gonna do a diagonal forward. Is more of a triangle versus the traditional V that we normally go up creating a V this way. We're creating more of a triangular approach. Do a bit more of a moderate to baby light effect, and then back comb that a little bit. You can also get creative with your product application and your foil, depending on how much depth you want to preserve. It really depends on your canvas. Sometimes you can, I'm going in and mimicking my subsection, but you could also go in and do a V placement if you wanted to with your product. You could also go in and do a high to low in the center or a high to low towards the edges. Now for the cream lightener, it does have that oil blend that's really going to help with her texture. It's really going to help with conditioning, as well as just, you're still going to get 8 levels of lift, but because of that oil blend, you get the conditioning agents, which are going to help with her curl pattern. Whenever we're working with waves and curls, that curl pattern is really important. So what's cool about this being more of a white color is that you will definitely be able to see your levels of lift true to level more than a blue powder. A blue powder can be a little deceiving sometimes, right? Like it can look maybe like it's done processing and you either get too much lift or not enough lift because you have to wipe it out first. The white powder is going to show the true level that you're at. without you having to really wipe it out. Another cool thing about this lightener specifically is that whenever we're lifting curly hair, you want to be able to see if the hair is straightening out or if it's still going to give you a nice curl. If you still have curl retention and retraction, you can see her hair is kind of starting to absorb the product and recoil. That lets you know that you still have a healthy hair and healthy curl pattern here. If you were to start to see this elongate and straighten out, it would let you know it's time to rinse. That's why I like the cream, because you can see that the product is still nice and moist and you can really work with it, versus a powder can sometimes dry out a little bit and be a little bit harder to see the integrity of the hair underneath. What I'm gonna do is place a foil on top here, and then let's go ahead and do a saturation test where we pull the foil. You guys can see how it's fully saturated. That is the beauty of utilizing a cream lightener as well, is that it gives you a much better saturation, and we all know that when we get a good saturation, we get much better lift. I'm moving into the front quadrant and just really maintaining, you know, I started here, so I'm flowing around the head so that I have a nice balanced even lift. So we're moving into this front quadrant. Again, I'm going to brush out her hair. Now her curl pattern and her hair is a little easier to comb through. If you have a guest that does have quite a bit of product in their hair, you could always do this process in the very beginning with the Porosity Equalizing spray. And then you can go ahead and comb the hair out, and then as you work through it, it'll dry. Moving into our front quadrant here, we're gonna maintain that diagonal forward subsectioning. So just picking right up where we left off here. So diagonal forward, still creating our zigzags. I'm gonna go ahead and split that in half. Do a little bit of back combing towards the root. And then because I'm still working in the interior part of the hair here, I'm gonna continue with picking up anywhere from 4 to 5 pieces to keep it a little bit heavy, but also enough to blend out on straighter hair when we do a blow dry. And then as I work up towards the hairline, I'm gonna be creating a bit of a different pattern as we work towards the hairline. We want to get a little softer. I love working with cream lightener, especially on canvas like this that has some curl to it. She has a deeper wave to curly hair. I'm working with a few different, you know, shades and bands here. So I really love to use the cream lightener for a couple of reasons. One, because it's going to give me the 8 levels of lift that I need to shift and really balance out some of the banding here as I highlight. It's also going to help to really keep her curl pattern a bit more intact because it has a oil blend in the formulation. We have marula oil in this formulation, which is going to give it that creamier consistency, and it's really going to help to keep the hair a bit more nourished as we work through her lightening application today. So we made our way to the top, and the hair that we left out is going to create a bit of a triangle on some jagged subsections from our zigzag. What we're going to do now is go in more horizontal. We're still going to create your zigzag part, but we want to go in at a horizontal because my client here tends to part her hair in many different ways. She can go in the center, she can go from side to side. We want to make sure that our color and our highlights are balanced. So we're going to go in with a horizontal through this top triangle section. Now, as we continue through our subsections, I am still creating the zigzag for our partings. For the weave pattern, I'm going to do more of what we call a skip slice. So we're gonna weave, skip some hair, and continue to weave as we work through the top. And this is gonna create a nice blend So we're gonna create some blending with our weave pattern, but it does also create a bit of boldness as if we were to have taken a heavier weave. So it gives us that ribbony effect, but softer blends because we stuck to a finer weave pattern here. I'm going to still back comb because we want to create a bit more of a balayage effect. Keep her a little rooty, lower maintenance. So that way, depending on how her hair is styled, whether it's curly or straight, we're gonna get the best of both worlds with this type of weave pattern. Just really going in and customizing her hairline. I do want to add some pops of color around her face here. So on each side, I'm going to place a foil. Really going with the natural shape of the hairline here. So kind of just pushing all of this hair towards the face to see where it's going to fall. And this will be the only place that I'm going to place a diagonal back foil. And it's gonna connect in perfectly with this diagonal forward foil that we already have. So it'll kind of create a V shape here. So I'm going to take a very fine and thin subsection. I'm not gonna back comb this one. I'm really just gonna go in for balance and create a baby light just to make sure we capture that brightness around her face as well. I'm gonna do one baby light. It's gonna fall in perfectly with the other highlights that we've created already. All right, so just to kind of recap what we did the diagonal forward subsections going throughout the entire application in each of the quadrants. We left out a little bit of hair up top here, so it created a really nice triangle for us to go in at a horizontal approach. I would just say, you know, really customize around the hairline. So for her, I wanted to add an additional 2 foils on each side for balance, because we want to make sure that we have that brightness on both sides of her part and as well as around her hairline. So feel free to customize accordingly depending on what your client's hairline looks like. Now we're going to process for about 40 minutes without heat, and we'll come back for the toning process. Okay, so now that my foils have been applied, some of these have been taken out already. You guys can see how beautiful. We got a nice, clean level 8 lift. And I purposefully, as I was wiping them out, separated them from the hair that we left out because I want to blend out her line of demarcation, her new growth. She did have a little bit of banding of previous color here. So with all this leftover hair, to make it pretty efficient and a lot speedier, I'm going to take subsections within this one bulk of hair that we have here. I'm going to take my brush and just back comb this hair that we left out to create some diffusion. And then I'm going to take really big chunks and apply my Lowlight Formula to these. So this is going to help to create some diffusion, but also break up some of the color that we see in here that's it's like a level 7, it's a little warm. I really want to cool that down a bit so we can create some contrast. So I'm using our 6 NUA in Demi, 1:2 mixing ratio with 9 volume. I'm not necessarily going to melt that in through her ends or to her root. I'm going straight up to the root, melting it to where her blonde ends are. And then just gonna let that process. The reason why I chose to do a heavy weave is to leave some, we wanna leave some of that level 7 in there. So she's gonna have a high, a mid, and a low light. It's gonna look really pretty. I'm working a majority of that 6 NUA through the mids and using my fingers to really help blend it upward toward her root area. You can get it on the tease part a little bit. It is gonna help with that diffusion, so don't be afraid to blend the product going upwards into your back comb. And that, my friends, we're gonna continue to do on all of the hair that we left out. Another tip that you can do if your client does have hair that's a little tighter curl, you probably don't want a back comb. So another thing you can do to get a nice blend is comb this section out. You can use a little bit of our Porosity Equalizing spray. This is a great product also if the hair is really porous before you tone. You don't want your product to grab spotty or uneven, then just go ahead and spray the hair down to where it's just like cold. You don't want it to be damp or wet. When you do that, you just want to mist it so you get a bit of that cold shine. And then you can go ahead and apply your product directly on your section. And then again, just use your fingers to help blend it upward if you don't prefer to back comb. Sometimes the hair is too curly to back comb, so you can definitely use your fingers to blend. For her shampoo, I'm going to be using our Kenra Triple Repair Shampoo and Conditioner. I will be shampooing her hair twice to get all of the lightener out, and I chose to go in with this pair because it does have the dual bonding technology in it, which is going to preserve the integrity of her hair and really help to mend the inner and outer parts of the hair for a really helpful finish when we go in with styling. As I apply her rapid toner, I'm going to be applying this toner specifically to the areas that we highlighted. If you guys can remember, I left her ends out, so I definitely love the tone and the level that she is on her ends already, so I'm not going to apply my rapid toner there. I'm going to be applying it from her roots through her mid lengths and letting it sit for 5 minutes. I chose to use the Violet Pearl Rapid Toner because it's going to have a violet blue base to it, and it works on levels 8 through 10. So because we lifted her to a beautiful level 8, this is really going to help refine the brassiness in her hair, help neutralize it a little bit, but still leave us with a nice polished off warm end result. Okay, so now that I've applied her toner to her mid lengths and to her root area, I'm gonna let this process for 5 minutes and go ahead and rinse it out when it's reached the full processing time. Okay everyone, so here is the final result. I hope you love this multi-dimensional color as much as we do. Today, you guys, we utilized that cream lightener and we were able to eliminate a lot of banding in her hair as well as maintain a beautiful honey blonde tone. So if you love this video, please don't forget to subscribe to Kenra Professional YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.